Ken, is there any case to change the lineup? Is there anything you're thinking about there?
Yeah, we'll think about a few things still and see where they end up. And it's an interesting weather week. It's been really challenging for us to make sure we get the right lineup, which we will settle on today.
Is that a repercussion of the second half against Essendon that makes you rethink what you like in the wet?
No, not so much that. I think it's just the balance of the team overall, and you try to get it right, and you second guess a fair bit when you deal with weather forecasts sometimes, unfortunately, as everyone does.
So does that suggest you lock out 4 tools so it's not George Hardy's coming back, or do you shift around?
Yeah, most likely. Most likely will be probably smaller than taller. Most likely.
What did the break do for the group?
Oh, hopefully it gave them mental freshen up as well as a physical freshen up, and that's what at this time of the year it comes around pretty quick. 11 quick games in an AFL season. We've had some challenges along the way, obviously, and it's probably just been a good moment for them to separate from football and work and just relax a little bit for a couple of days, but then get back at it.
You closed the first half saying you haven't sold yourself to the competition. No. What's the next month going to do then?
Well, it's going to expose more of it to us and to them, and it's a real challenging little block. But ideally, and what we've done all the way through this year is just stayed focused on the next game, and that's obviously Richmond tomorrow night.
Is that the tone at the moment, to look at it one at a time rather than look at it a block because of living in the net?
Everyone does, and everyone has to, because that's just how challenging AFL football is. You just don't take any chances with the game.
How many will you take? Ken, will you take 1 or 2 extra?
We'll take 3 extras. Normally, because of COVID, we always take an extra few this year, and we've been forced to do that, and that's why you're always uncertain about what your team are going to end up at, a day out, because you've only got to have someone wake up in the morning and you could have 1, you could have 2, you could have 3, so you do your best to cover the bases as you can. And because we play Thursday, it makes it a bit easier this week because we don't play again until Saturday with the sample team.
And Mackenzie likely in the sample this week?
Yes, yeah. He'll get back and play some footy this week after a long time out, so it's good to get him back. We're starting to get some people back, which is nice. So if we can get them together for a period of time, that's the challenge, getting them together for a good period of time.
The young draftee, Tickle. Sorry, thanks, Rooch. Is he likely to play much senior footy? I mean, you obviously got him for a reason. Hayes is one out at the moment.
Yeah, 100% he is. I mean, we brought him with that in mind, that he's played basically for us. It's at sample level. He's played waffle level, and he's played pretty well. So, he's a good option for us because Hayes is only a very young ruckman. He's still developing. He's got a long way to go, and there's a lot of work for Sam to still do. So to support him a little bit more, we've got Dante underneath. Scott's 4 weeks away, probably 5 weeks away. So we're stretched a little bit with experience in the ruck at the moment.
Is that a change to look at, Ken, after Essendon probably got on top? You got on top around the ground and on the scoreboard, but in the clearances, especially early on in the centre clearances, it was an area of concern for you. Is that a change you might look at?
Yeah, it is. It's something we'll look at for sure, because you can't sit with the status quo and just expect that and let that continue on, because we need to make sure we're working on it, because it's one part of our team that's important, but it's also other parts of the game that you need to make sure you get right with the people in the side, and we'll balance the team out with the right people.
When you look at Richmond, do they still hold the same fear they may have a couple of years ago?
I think they do. I think they're a fantastic football club and incredibly well coached, and they've got their personnel back. I mean, I think bar Tom Lynch, I'd say they're close to full strength. I'm not quite sure of their injury list totally, but I would suggest that everyone who's watching Richmond at the moment, and I've certainly been watching Richmond over the last 2 or 3 weeks very, very closely, they're a scary proposition, and they're at MCG. Your best is the only way you got a chance.
Is that how the coach spends the break? Instead of feet up, it was watching.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I mean, the staggered bye, from a coaching point of view, doesn't really give you a bye, because you're still on duty, you're still working, and you're still watching, and you have to be, and you don't probably go looking for too big a break, to be honest.
So with that extra time to reflect on the first start of the season, did it give you any new thoughts as to where you're at and what you need to do?
No, not really. I mean, I think the information you get is always pretty clear, and ours has been pretty consistent. When we haven't quite got it right in a contest and stuff, we've found ourselves in trouble. We didn't get the start of the year that we wanted. We had a few things outside our control. We had a few things well and truly inside our control that we didn't handle well.
It's been so long-standing, that contest this year. How do you find the way to correct it?
Well, I think every team in the competition, when you drop off in any part of your game, it's quite simple. You just got to keep working at it. And for us, we're not the only team in the competition who, when you get beat badly in contested possession, you lose games. I think it's a pretty accurate stat, but as I've said only a week or two ago, that there's more to contested possession than just what everyone thinks, and that's just one ground ball fight. It's a lot more than that.
When you're sitting at 0-5 and you look back now in hindsight, are you really proud of the resilience of this club to fight back from that position?
I think I said after the last game, we got some resilience when we didn't want it, because we had to. It was the only way through it, was at 0-5. We had no choice but to stick to the course of each week and get better. And yeah, we fought our way back, but I'm still doesn't sit there and get comfortable that 0-5 and it's a great result to get back to win 5 of your next 6. That's an unacceptable behaviour for us and for me to accept that we let that happen. So it's a real challenge, but we're still in the competition. That's what you do get some satisfaction out of, because you know how hard this competition is. So we were no chance if we continued on the run we're on, clearly, and it's a long time to play.
You might have seen a Jason Horne-Francis tweet where the AFL was indicating, just kind of jokingly, that he could be traded to Port Adelaide, and now he liked that tweet and he's copped a bit of criticism for it. Would you ever? Obviously, you'd probably love to have him in the side, but does that show a bit of immaturity from your perspective?
I don't comment on other clubs' players at all. I comment on our players, and that's why I should stay.
Ken, you've obviously reiterated over the journey you're passionate to this cause and seeing it through with Port, but a few prominent media commentators have mentioned that you'd be a great fit at GWS. Do you laugh at that commentary? How do you sort of take it?
Yeah, I dismiss it. I don't take any notice of it, because I'm committed to Port Adelaide and I've got a job to do at Port Adelaide, and those things are pretty simple. But this happens all the time. Speculation just comes from nowhere, and a lot of it unfounded speculation. I just don't know whether I should be able to have a reverse press conference sometimes and question some of the people who put some of those things up.
And on the small options, who's impressing you that make you want to put them in the side if you want to go small options against Richmond for you?
Oh no, we've got a number of players who have been okay for us, and I think it's more continuing to build with what we've got there at the moment. I think we've played. Orazio's a simple one, but he's been missing for us for a good period of time. But there's a lot of players, and we need some form. Out of Bergman and Dersma and people like that can come in and push. Farrell's been a really good story for us, I think, since he's come back from an ACL. We've got Fredericks, who we know can play up that end of the ground. Jones is an option for us to play in those areas of the ground because they bring pressure, and that's what we're looking for.
And how good's Trent Dumont been?
Yeah, he's been a pretty good story for us, to be fair. He's come in and played a role and fitted in after a challenge. He was delisted basically and got an opportunity to come and play for Port. He's back home in Adelaide. He loves obviously being around his family, and for us we're really, really happy to have him at our footy club. He's just a really mature and good leader for us.
Would you have thought when you got him he'd keep Bergman, Dersma, these sorts of guys out of the side?
I thought it was going to be hard to stop him getting in the side, because I thought he was, the way he went about his pre-season, the way he trained, and he had some setbacks along the way, but he made sure we knew he could train hard, and certainly a good spot to start for us as people who work hard.
Just back to the GWS situation. So, are you willing to categorically say it's complete nonsense? It's not happening. You're staying here. What can you say?
By even talking about it, I'm wasting my time. By even talking about it, I'm not interested in it. It's not something that we've talked about in any way, shape, or form. I'm coaching Port Adelaide, and that's my biggest challenge today, is to make sure that we're ready for tomorrow night's game.
Ken, there was a new dynamic when you had Finlayson, Georgiades and Marshall and midfielders work the new system to them. Is it a trap that you can become too focused on Charlie Dixon again? Is that concerning you?
No, not one bit. I did some radio earlier the week about the very same question. We've had Charlie in the side for one game, and the question was, are we too Charlie focused? We played in a second half against Essendon where it was wet and slippery, and the ball was kicked in deep for both teams, and that's just the way the game's played. We've worked really hard to become more than a bit of Charlie, but if you think we're going to go away from Charlie too often, we're probably not. That's the way we like to play. It's the way we expect to play.
And could we see Ollie Wines go head-to-head with Dusty tomorrow night a bit? Maybe, Tom. Maybe they could. I don't know. It depends where Dusty is. I know where Ollie will be. Ollie will be in the middle. I'm not sure whether Dusty will be in there all the time or not some of the time. But I'm sure that they've touched base at times in games before.
Who gets that nightmare if he does drift forward?
We've got a number of people down there. I mean, Tom Jonas is down there, Burton's down there, Houston's down there. We've got good flexibility with our backs. Dusty's a unique challenge, though, very much a unique challenge, and I just don't want to see the Dusty of Norm Smith medal model.